There is a country that spent decades making sure the world would never see what it actually looks like inside. Not because it was hiding poverty. Not because it was hiding conflict. But because what is inside is so different from what you have been told, that seeing it would completely change the story. And that is exactly what happened when they finally opened the doors. Saudi Arabia. A place most people think they already understand. Desert. Oil. Restrictions. That is usually where the mental image stops. But there is a version of this country that almost nobody outside its borders has ever seen, and if you have 5 minutes, you will never think about it the same way again. Here is the first thing that surprises everyone who actually goes. The silence is not empty. It is heavy in a way that feels ancient. When you stand at the edge of the Rub al Khali, the empty quarter, the largest continuous sand desert on Earth, you realize that the word empty means something different here. This is not absence. This is presence so overwhelming that your brain goes quiet just trying to process it. The dunes stretch further than your eye can follow. Some of them are taller than skyscrapers. And they shift. Slowly, constantly, silently, like the land itself is breathing. Most of the world still does not know this place exists. That tells you everything about how little we actually know about Saudi Arabia. But the desert is not even the most surprising part. In the northwest of the country sits a city called Alula. And what is buried inside Alula should not be possible. Massive sandstone tombs carved directly into rose-colored rock faces, some standing 30 meters tall, built over 2,000 years ago by a civilization called the Nabateans. The same civilization that built Petra in Jordan. Except almost nobody knew this Saudi site existed, because for decades the government kept it closed. Not to the world. To photographs. The entire area was considered too sacred, too significant, too complicated to share. When they finally opened it in 2020, archaeologists said it was one of the most important discoveries of the decade. It had been hiding in plain sight the whole time. Think about that for a second. A city. With tombs the size of buildings. Hidden not underground, but in a desert that millions of people lived around for generations. What else is sitting out there that we have simply never been pointed toward? Now here is where the story gets interesting, and this is the part most travel content never touches. Saudi Arabia is not just changing what it shows the world. It is changing what it is. Vision 2030. You might have heard the name without knowing what it actually means. It is the plan to reshape an entire country inside 15 years. New cities rising from nothing. Ancient ruins being restored and opened. A coastline that previously did not allow tourism now being built into one of the most ambitious resort projects on Earth. Neom. The Line. A linear city planned to be 170 kilometers long and only 200 meters wide, designed to run on 100% renewable energy with no cars and no roads. Whether you think that sounds brilliant or absurd, the fact that it is being built at all tells you something about the scale of what is happening here. This is not renovation. This is reinvention. And in the middle of all of it is Riyadh. Riyadh is where the contradiction hits you hardest. Gleaming towers casting shadows over streets where men in white thobes sit outside tiny coffee stalls that have been there for 50 years. Shopping malls so large you can get lost in them for an afternoon, sitting beside open-air souks where spice merchants still measure in handfuls. The skyline looks like a city dreaming about the future while the ground level still belongs to the past. And somehow it does not feel like a conflict. It feels like a negotiation that is still in progress. What nobody tells you about Saudi people is this. The hospitality is not a performance. In most cultures, when a stranger offers you tea, it is polite. In Saudi culture, it is almost non-negotiable. You will be offered coffee, dates, food, conversation, directions, help, often before you even ask. There is a concept called karam, generosity as a value so deeply held that refusing it is almost an insult. Travelers who have gone report the same thing, over and over. They expected a guarded place and found one of the most open receptions of their lives. That gap between expectation and reality is worth sitting with. Because here is the uncomfortable version of this story. Most of what the average person in the US, the UK, Ghana, or anywhere else thinks about Saudi Arabia comes from headlines. And headlines about any country are a highlight reel of its worst moments. That is true everywhere. That is true about your country. That is true about every country. The question is not whether headlines lie. The question is what you do when you realize the picture is incomplete. The Farazan Islands in the south. A coral archipelago in the Red Sea that barely appears on travel maps, with some of the most intact coral reefs anywhere in the world. Water so clear and warm that divers say it feels artificial. Flamingos nesting along shores where Roman ruins poke out of the sand. Roman ruins. In Saudi Arabia. Because before this was Saudi Arabia, this was a trading route that connected empires. History does not care about modern borders. And that is the thing about this country that keeps pulling people back, the ones who go once and cannot stop talking about it. Every layer you peel back reveals something that should not fit the version of this place you were handed. It does not match the story. And instead of making you dismiss the place, it makes you question the story. That is a feeling worth chasing. Not just in Saudi Arabia. Anywhere that makes you realize how much of your map of the world was drawn by people who had never been there. The travelers who go to Saudi Arabia now, the ones visiting Alula at sunrise, swimming in the Red Sea before the crowds arrive, sitting in Old Jeddah where the UNESCO-protected coral houses have wooden balconies that lean into the street like they are eavesdropping, they are not just visiting a country. They are catching a country mid-transformation. There is a specific feeling that comes from being somewhere during the moment it changes. You can feel the before and the after existing at the same time. Most places you visit are already the after. Saudi Arabia right now is the middle. And the middle is always where the most interesting story lives. The world was not meant to see this. Not yet. Not like this. But the doors are open now, and what is walking through them is something nobody had on their travel list. The only question is whether you are the kind of person who waits until a place is fully finished, fully explained, fully mapped. Or the kind of person who goes while there is still something left to discover.